An espresso talk on authentic work. Have you heard teachers talking about authentic work? I had for a while and I wasn't quite sure what it was. But as I've shifted my practice more and more to authentic work, I'm really excited about what I'm seeing and how it reaches today's students, whether they're adults or kids, because it really taps into their desire to do real work and to really learn. So, what is authentic work? Well, the first thing I think you need to think about is authentic audiences. That's what's helped my students best think about the kind of authentic work that they need to do, because authentic work is almost always prepared for an authentic audience, whether it's actually presented to that audience or not. So you want to think about, or have your students think about, who the real people are that they would be preparing their work for. For example, in one of the courses that I teach for adults, for teachers, I have them doing interviews of good leaders. Well, they are not going to present that to me. Then that's a confusion. They always want to make me the professor, the audience. Well, I'm not the audience. They have to think about who their real audience is. And in the course that I teach that in, they begin to realize that they're preparing that for each other. So their real audience in that case is their peers. And they're preparing summaries of their interviews so that their peers in their class can learn from it. For secondary students, think about the example of Civil War and Reconstruction. The students are doing a project on that, and to show their understanding, who would be a real audience that they would present it to? Well, think about them presenting to their parents, especially if they live, as I do, in the South. And then children would be going home, presenting their work and to their parents, and then getting their parents' input and understanding their parents' perspective on the Civil War and Reconstruction. That's an authentic audience. Another example would be from science, and if students were developing a plan for managing an environmental issue in their area, they could present that to their community. But what about middle school students, if it was high school students preparing the work, as their authentic audience? The high school students could post it to the web. Middle schoolers in the city could review them and make comments, and then they're communicating their work to a real audience and helping middle schoolers understand the environmental needs, the challenges, and how they can make a difference in their own community. So authentic work is prepared for authentic audiences. That's the first way to get a handle on it. Now, what exactly is authentic work? Well, here we have to move away from school definitions. Today's students don't really want to do busy work. They don't want to do all of the papers and the mindless, mind-numbing projects and busy works that we've done in the past. They want to do real work that makes a real difference. And that's what you have to tap into. You have to tap into, what do your students, the kind of work that they think is actually real work, and you may even want to look at what they do outside of school. Well, here's some examples of some real work that I have my students do. In one course I teach, I have students reading a great book on educational change, and what they do to for the real work on that is to prepare a summary of what they've learned from the book and as an outline or as a PowerPoint or a Prezi that they would present to their peers, the peer teachers back in the schools. So they're actually doing the real authentic work of getting information to peers who would value that work. With secondary students, here are a couple of examples of authentic work that they could do. In history, one of my favorites was what my sons experienced in AP History, where they were doing document-based analysis. Rather than reading a history textbook, they were doing the real work of actually looking at primary source documents in history, and they quickly saw that it was actual work that historians do, and they were being asked to do real tasks. The last one example is one of my favorite ones that I did with my physical science students, and it was cartoon physics. After we had done some work with Newton's laws, to apply that understanding, they had to analyze cartoons that they watched to find out what the real forces should have been when the coyote jumped off the cliff, and what the cartoon forces were that held the coyote up when he should have fallen. And so my students saw that as real work, authentic work, because they were looking at stuff in their lives. And yeah, ninth graders really do still watch cartoons. They had a blast with that project, but they saw that it was authentic. So authentic work, authentic audiences, play with it, and I think you'll see that it transforms the work you ask kids to do.